We're on 18.
18? Oh, crap. Okay. Welcome to the OK&Y podcast, episode 18. Yeah, I'm Yichin. You guys know me.
I'm
Yeah, that's
Kenny.
it.
You also know me. I'm the guy who doesn't play Fab as much anymore, but has a lot of opinions on card design.
Yeah. My name's Oliver.
Oliver, get you quiet. Speak up.
My name is Oliver.
Yeah, battle hardened winner, Oliver Fee.
That's
Don't know what
right.
you're talking about.
Battle hardened winner, calling second place. You know,
Yeah,
the
that's all old news now.
all-star
Armory
of the
0-3 drop.
0-3? I would at least get a
All-star of the
buy
podcast.
sometimes. I don't know if it's 0-3. I gotta get
You
that
went
pack.
0-3 last time.
No,
Or
the
is it
last
0-2 drop?
the last armory I went 4-0. You weren't there. Don't worry about it.
Okay,
That's because I'm not playing Prism anymore.
sounds good. Well, today we're going to talk about parts of Mistveil. New set. I'm going to give a brief introduction of it. So yeah, Parts of Mistveil. This is the 14th set for Fab. So we're out of the new game mode Fab now. We're into long-term, long-haul Fab, where we really get to flex, or where the designers really get to flex their design muscles. And James White has called this one of the sets that he is most proud of design-wise. He says it is peak TCG design. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the mechanics. We're going to talk about all the heroes and individual card designs, and give our unsolicited opinions about this. But that's why you're here. You're here listening to us. You're trapped with us.
That's right. We're going to go a little faster than usual as well, because I'm on a little bit more of a time limit than usual. But we'll see if we can stick to it as much as possible. I think generally we're going to do like more overviews of the class themselves rather than every individual card. And then we'll talk about, particular cards here and there, but we won't be going through, generic attack variant number 7.
So yeah, I'll give some brief introductions to each section. We'll start with the Mystic design as a whole, because that's kind of like the main focus of the set. And then we'll go into each of the heroes. So the main mechanic of the set is Transcend, which is a mechanic solely found on double face cards. And what it does is it basically says once you meet certain conditions, in this case, most of them are if you play another blue card this turn, you flip the card over and it permanently, for the rest of the game, becomes a inner chi token, which is just a resource token that gives blue energy instead of red energy. Yeah, that's everything in the set revolves around blue cards, chi, and the mechanics that kind of offshoot off of that. So yeah, that's the Mystics. That's Mystics.
And typically, sorry, you go.
Yeah, everything in the set is just blue stuff and some small extra things that I'll note in the individual class sections, but it's mostly blue stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say that one of the key things with chi as well is that the blue energy is like a strictly better version of red energy. You can use it as normal energy as per usual. But it also does, there's a few abilities in the set, especially on the heroes and a few of the equipment, I believe, that specifically requires chi effectively.
Yeah. So in terms of cards, we have 11 cards, technically 12 cards, that have Transcend on them. They're all legendary, so they're all one-ofs. And basically all of them, or the common ones, all do a minor effect for 0 resources, and then will transform if you have a blue card. They have cool art, I guess. Any other thoughts on them?
That whole cycle? Yeah, the art's nice. Like very, I mean, yeah, the art overall is nice. I think some of them are like really bizarre in what they do. For example, like Stir the Pot for me is some of the best art in the set and probably the weirdest mechanism in the set.
Yes, I think so. I think that's a lot of people's favorite card too, just because of how weird it is.
Yeah, it's just shuffle. That's it. That's all it does is shuffle your deck. That's it.
You can shuffle back and forth in the corner.
Yeah. So I mean, it's interesting. It's like weird design in a good way, I suppose. But then there are a couple of other ones where they just kind of feel like a very tacked on effect, like they needed to just make an effect to go with Transcend, Like, I think Homage to Ancestors is a good example where it's just gain 1 life and then maybe Transcend.
Yeah, I also think Preserved Tradition is one of those cards that also feels a little weird.
Yeah.
Um, I will say that some of them do kind of work in your favor, where Preserved Tradition and Rising Sun and Setting Moon put cards on the bottom of your deck where you can pitch stack them with the energy that you're presumably going to pitch along with it,
Hmm.
which is a little cool. And there's some of them with like a drop in the ocean, which is just like minor instant speed effect that was unplayable before, but now is very playable since you get essentially a card back when you transcend from it.
Yeah, you get the full 3 pitch back.
Mhm. What do you think about the mechanic as a whole, the transcend?
I think initially when I was talking with Oliver about it, I don't like flip that much just because I mean conceptually it's cool, right? I mean in Magic when there was like all the transform cards, I thought
Mhm.
that, it's pretty fun to have a human turn into a werewolf and so on and so forth. But it's
Mhm.
just a little bit fiddly in a sense. Like you have to unsleeve the card and put it back
Yeah,
in and so on and so forth. So it's just not very elegant, even though it's a pretty fun thing. So I thought the same thing initially for Chi, but that was before I realized that the Chi cards, end up back in your deck and shuffled in and stuff. So you're transforming them for the entire game. It's not like a one-off, one-turn thing.
yeah.
It's transformed forever. So I guess in that way, it makes more sense why it works that way. It's still not like the most elegant thing ever, but that's fine. I think it's interesting.
I think one of the things I thought about it is that it plays very well to Fab's unique strength as a game, where you go through your deck at a faster rate than most other games, at least in terms of in the TCG space,
Hmm.
and permanently transforming your deck is something that is relatively rare in that space, just because that most games don't go through your deck, so it's usually a very marginal effect. But
Hmm.
for a lot of deck builders and stuff, right, transforming your deck during gameplay is pretty regular and expected, and it kind of definitely feels like it has veins of that, where you're trading off one or two functions of a card for a super function of the card, which is the G resource
Yeah.
for later.
Yeah, I think that 9 times out of 10, the like you would rather have a chi resource than the other effect anyway. And most of the time, they're going to transform into a chi resource.
I do think that putting the chi back in your hand is a bit of a concession that is made when designing the mechanic to ensure that the chi is impactful immediately and people are enticed to run it. Um, it
Yes.
does feel like it does feel like a little bit more make too afraid to make the back end payoff super great because people want to have a immediate effect when you play the card beyond just the normal like -1 or whatever.
Yeah. Benefit now, right? I think that like it also makes chi generally quite strong, right? Because all of the cards that transform, I think it's going to be pretty easy to play a blue card to get the transcend. Like I'm pretty sure that 90 to 100% of your deck is going to be blue.
Mhm.
Um, And then the fact that you get a minor effect plus a transform on top of that, um, you're basically getting a free effect and then blue pitch, right? Which you probably would use for pitch anyway.
Yeah,
So I
I,
think
I think
generally the cards are quite good. Like I think that I suppose we're starting with these ones, but I think that Path Well Traveled, for example, the give attack go again,
mhm.
just any attack go again plus transcend, that card's great, I think.
Yeah,
Um, but just I suppose design wise, I think that they're all right. Minor effect plus transcend. They kind of fill a need for the
mhm.
mechanic, right?
Yeah. I will say in terms of choosing to make them instants, it helps with the playability, but I think it also contributes a lot to the complexity of the set. And I think I'll mention this later that this set is probably the most complex set that Fab has ever had, just because the game expects you to interact with its systems on a level that it previously hasn't, which is holding priority to play another instant in response to get. So, example, playing two instants by holding priority, both the
Mhm.
transcend cards will result in both of them transcending because they'll both see each other that you've played another blue card.
Mm.
And that's a normal play that the developers expect you to do in most of the tutorials for blitz decks for this set. I do think it contributes a lot to it shows that the developers trust the players to be able to understand this interaction. And I think it does kind of interfere with the set's other goal, which is to introduce itself to Japan. But I do like that Fab is a little bit happier to play with its rule system a little bit more to achieve cool effects, because a lot of players like feeling like they've kind of cheated the system somehow.
I get what you mean. I feel like, again, it's the kind of, I've talked about this in previous set design, but it's not the most intuitive thing, right? You would expect that you'd have to basically waste one to get the transcend trigger on the other, not that you just get to transcend both for 3. So I get that, that might be a design intention for the set, but I don't know if that's, for me, that feels quite unclean.
It does look unclean. I do agree. Like from a pure design perspective, it does feel like, oh well, kind of weird quirk in the rule system. Maybe you shouldn't do that because it's not intuitive. But I do think that at least with a lot of recent stuff with Magic and all the other games, is that there's a good contingency of players that like having that aha moment. And you see it with a lot of simpler systems in like board games and stuff, where they set their rules and gameplay up to make you feel like, oh, you're cheating the system a little bit in certain ways, even if it's not as quite complex as how the instant timing works for G.
Yeah, I get you.
Okay.
I guess it feels very gamey, is what I would say, though. And I get people enjoy that feeling sometimes, but it doesn't feel, even though it is the intent clearly from what you've said with the designers and such, it doesn't feel like it's the intent.
Yes.
Which I know is a very nebulous argument because I'm just arguing, feelings, but it just, from the way it's presented, a layperson would not expect it to work that way.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. So that's one of the main mechanics of the set. I'll go for the other main mechanic of the set, which is a new equipment mechanic called Cloaked, where you have a bunch of these random common equipment and rare equipment that enter the battlefield, or you start the game with them face down, and when you turn them face up, either via an ability or some effect, you get some bonus from it. So yeah, it's in varying levels in every class. Illusionist gets it the most. Ninja and Assassin don't have too much of it because they have other mechanics on their class equipment. But at least for the talent itself, the cloak mechanic is pretty. It's pretty. I don't know, common. It's basically there. It's there.
I like it. On a very simple level, like it just, hidden tricks are fun. So that's, I think it'll be the kind of mechanic that's obviously better once there's a bit more of a surprise around it. Like once, I think if you have a fairly established thing, like okay, this deck is playing this equipment, and at some point it's going to flip up and do this thing, then the face down part is just more of a gimmick than anything. It's basically just a once per game effect, flip up to do this thing. But once there's enough cloaked equipment that there is actually a choice and there is some meaningful mind game that you can do with cloaked equipment, then I think it'll be more interesting.
Yeah, the downside is I don't think that will happen because this mechanic appears on mystic cards only. Which means it's unlikely to. There's always a possibility you can make generic cards with it, but it feels like it's a mystic only mechanic.
Yes, it would be nice if I feel like you've unleashed the beast. It'd be nice if things were trait specific. Or talent specific, sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, overall the mystic talent is all about like hidden information and instant speed trickery is probably the best 2 ways to describe it. There's among the talented cards, there's 2 other mechanics, quote unquote. One of which is checking how many blue cards you've played or pitched this turn, which is pretty simple. And another one, which is riffing off of Enlightened Strike. There are 10 cards in this set that have taken one of each line of Enlightened Strike and separated them out into different cards. And this is one of the things I I don't say I don't like it, but it's just baffling to me that you can reference a card 10 times. So the cards are first 10 of Chi, Moon, Tide, and Wind. They each get Enlightened Strikes one of 3 modes. Second 10 of Chi, Moon, Tide, and Wind, which is if you transcended this turn, you get one of Enlightened Strikes modes. Levels of Enlightenment, which is just all 3 modes of Enlightened Strike. And in the generic section, you have Emissary of Moon, Tide, and Wind, which is put a card on the bottom of your deck to get one of Enlightened Strike's 3 modes.
They really like Enlightened Strike.
Yeah. And then they don't reprint Enlightened Strike. You think of like all this Enlightened Strike reference, they'd be like, oh wow, we'll reprint Enlightened Strike at like special alt art fables or whatever. I don't care. No, it's just a random like landmark. Instead, you just get Enlightened Strike reference 10 times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would have been interesting if having Enlightened Strike, like a clearly red card in such a blue-centric set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would have been actually a bit of a nice contrast.
Definitely. I think also like a lot of the art feels like it kind of references Enlightened Strike just because it's just like cloudy dude. Right? There's a lot of cloudy dudes in this set. I feel like.
There's a lot of like misty ephemeral stuff in this set.
Yeah. So yeah, that's about it. Any individual cards you want to highlight in Mystic, Kenny?
In Mystic specifically.
Yeah, the Mystic.
Oh, I like the big one, the big payoff card. I can't remember what it's called now. I can just scroll through it. What's it called?
Cosmic Awakening.
That's the one. The 20 damage thing, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun, right? You know,
I think so.
Very, very aspirational kind of card. So feels like, I mean, theoretically, right? You could actually play it turn 1. Just have 3 Transcend cards in hand. Bing bang boom, instant Cosmic Awakening for 20 on turn 1.
Yep. Do that in limited too.
Yeah. So I don't know. It seems fun, right? I don't mind, cards that pay off for playing into the themes. Sorry, into the set's themes. So that's nice. It's got cool art. It's just a fun design.
It reads really fun. I think that's the main thing is that when you read it, you're like, wow.
Yeah. The fact that its baseline is basically 10, right? It's just wow. That's a big baseline, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure. I think it'll be a very popular card. I think people are including it just because it's a blue block 3, which is either good or bad depending on how you view how game design should work. I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
But people are running this, and I'm not sure if they're getting off for 20, but I think I've heard people get off for 15 relatively, occasionally.
Relatively occasionally. That's how I like my consistency. I feel like the only other card that I wanted to point out specifically was Attune with Cosmic Vibrations. I don't know. It seems very good, just generally. Like it's just 5 defense, right? Effectively, if you're playing like an entirely blue deck, it just blocks for 5 for 0. It seems very good.
Well, it's their deck, not your deck.
Oh, it's their deck. Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
It's a vibe.
Never mind then. Never mind.
Literal vibe check.
So it's like anti-tech, right? It's Mystic tech against Mystic. So yeah, I don't know. Okay, that's fine then. Sorry, I thought it was just a reward for playing all blue, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure you're going to do that anyway. Mm-hmm. So I thought it just blocked for 5. Okay, never mind. Take it back.
One card I wanted to highlight before we go on is Dense Blue Mist, which I think people have really hated on because it's a very like targeted effect towards specific decks. I just think it's kind of bad, but that's it. I just think people are overrating this card. That's all. That's my spiel.
Any thoughts, Oliver?
I like the card, but yeah, it does host some classes like Bolton or Ninja or something. So like the classes that want to go super wide, it does really hurt those like indirectly.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it feels like it's really tough to get off, right? Especially if it's like first cycle.
Oh, you don't really care about the on hit for the decks that want to play this. You just really want to care about the -1.
So. Okay. It's
I
fair.
mean, the
It's like
extra chi
drinks
effect
on
is
me.
cool.
Is it even good though? Because you're spending 2 cards to do this, or like one, at least 1 card to do this, right?
Just tunic it. It's not too bad.
Yeah, but that's like block 3. Oh, whatever. It's okay.
Well, when attackers are coming at you for like 8 chain links long,
That's true. That's true.
it will matter eventually.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about Mystic Assassin, and I guess we can also talk about Assassin cards, but we'll talk about Mystic Assassin specifically. So we have our Mystic Assassin, who is new, and a lot of her Mystic Assassin cards revolve around creating additional attack reactions in hand. Slither and Fang Strike specifically, which is just +1 and go again to whatever attack you're doing. And I think that's about it. She has a couple of extra cards that like are able to help her steal her opponent's cards and play them for free, which is a pretty popular mechanic in terms of like people just like stealing other people's cards, I guess. But yeah, other than that, I don't have too much to say about these cards. They're pretty straightforward and they read pretty fun. But other than that, I'm not super into them.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was gonna say why is it certainly stands out just because it's probably the most like risque art that they've had in the game.
Yeah.
So that's certainly something that pops out immediately. Um, but I mean, she's an interesting assassin overall. I think, like, very seems very low damage, kind of almost more, that kind of fatigue mill focus. But you can set up with her ability, which I spoke about with Oliver. You have such a potential huge late game against certain decks. Just from an off trigger of that, you can blow someone up. You're playing against Ninja. You just pretend to be Ninja for a turn. It's huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially
much.
like it's. I think it's kind of interesting because she's so good against the other classes in the set, right? Like her abilities all like her main ability to be able to play blue cards from the banished zone is just so good against other mystics. It almost feels like it feels a bit sad for the other two in that sense, where like I feel like if they climb up and become quite good decks, then Nu's just going to really tear them a new one. But I could be wrong. I think the design is interesting. Banishing cards and milling and stuff is kind of fun. I know it's a popular mechanism generally. So it seems pretty cool. I know that Assassin generally, at least in this set, seems to be about kind of death by 1,000 paper cuts. So as a kind of idea for a character, that's pretty fun.
Yeah, I will say that Nu is one of those hero designs that has, it's like she has her own engine built into the deck, and the rest of her cards are basically just like supplementing the engine. Other than other hero designs, which are usually just one part of an engine, Nu offers both the method to get to the payoff as well as the payoff itself.
Yeah, that's true. She basically fuels herself, right?
Yeah, I feel like she was definitely, at least looking at it from like a design perspective, it feels like that she was definitely like one of the heroes that started off simpler, and then they realized through designing her kit that she needs more and more stuff. So a lot of her cards feel like they have a bunch of extra effects tacked on that are maybe thematic, but also kind of just like they feel not super elegant or clean.
Do you feel that way with Fang Strike and Slither generally?
Not Fang Strike and Slither. I think actually the mechanic for Mystic Assassin cards is clean, but when you get to the Assassin section, it definitely does feel like, which we'll talk about right now. Might as well get it out of the way. It definitely does feel like a lot of these like bonds and desires cards. The cards are named bond or desires. These all have additional tacked on effects that don't really feel like they belong too much.
No, they just kind of exist because they do. Like all of these cards, to be honest, I can't tell you the difference between any of them apart from Pick to Pieces, which I remember. But all of the others, they pretty much do the same. Oh, Double Trouble is slightly different. But Bonds of Attraction, Bonds of Memory, Desires of Flesh, Impulsive Desire, Mind's Desire. So that's 15 cards, right? Because all of them have a cycle. They all just kind of mush into one. I know they all banish like from the top of the deck generally, and then they have some condition where it will heal you.
Mhm.
It's very repetitive. I would say so. It doesn't feel super exciting. Like they might be good, right? As kind of a baseline effect, I think, as I spoke with Oliver earlier, but they're just not very interesting.
Yeah, and don't forget Art of Desire, Body, Mind, and Soul, because that's also basically
I
any card name with bonds or desire on it.
Mhm.
They have the same effect essentially,
Yeah, yeah.
except Bonds of Agony, which is the Majestic. So there's a vertical cycle in Assassin, which is if you've played or activated 1, 2, or 3 attack reactions as chain link, you get some super effect, which I think is the most well-designed assassin cards of this batch, even though it doesn't sound like it's saying too much, given how much we are not happy with the other
Mhm.
cards. I do think that these are very interesting cards.
Bonds of Agony specifically, you mean?
Bonds of
Double.
Agony, Double Trouble, and Pick to Pieces.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
think
they're the
they,
ones that have payoff for doing something more interesting than just playing a random one attack thing.
yeah, exactly. I think those ones are the direction I'd like to see Assassin go into, because the basic ones, they're basically just there to get you to a certain density where you can always mill an opponent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's some minor meta calls that you can make with like impulsive desire versus mind's desire, but for the most part, it's just kind of boring, right?
Yeah. Doesn't feel like an interesting meta call.
Yeah. Also, it doesn't also feel like it's an interesting, because you're gonna fill up your deck with them anyway. So might as well just like increase the density. Like it's basically just a density thing, right? You just want to have these cards always in your hand.
Mhm.
But yeah, it just feels like they're filler basically.
Yeah. You could slap any effect on there and it'd be basically the same.
Mhm. Yeah. Any cool cards that you want to mention in the Mystic Assassin or Assassin section?
I like just a Nick.
Yeah. Your name's not Nick though. It's Kenny.
No. But just +5? That's
Yep.
pretty cool.
Yep.
So yeah, that seems just genuinely interesting. +5, and I'm just trying to remember what the other effect was.
Millicard if that's still.
Millicard if it's got stealth, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Seems pretty good. Um, so I like that it's not specifically tied to Mystic stuff. You know, I like cards that are flexible, right? I like it when you can play it in a normal assassin deck.
Mhm.
And if anything, it's interesting because it's not blue, right? So maybe you don't want to play it in Mystic Assassin if you care so much about blue stuff.
Mhm.
But I suppose you're not going to be pitching this very often. You're going to be using it to just blow someone out for 5 damage.
Yeah. It's a niche effect, but also it's a very powerful one.
Yes. The fact as well that like it's not even a target attack that has one or less power. It's one or less base. So you can stack them, right? You can do multiple just in Nyx
Yep.
on a single attack and just completely decimate someone.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is where they've gotten a little bit better with designing the talented versus non-talented cards, where most of the cards in Basic Assassin do have a lot of applications in the other assassins.
Mhm.
But the kit of Mystic Assassin with creating extra attack reactions benefits the like Double Trouble and like Bonds of Agony and the other one, Impulsive Pick to Pieces.
Mhm.
It benefits that the most, and you're more likely to play them, or you have natural synergies between the talented kid versus the non-talented kid.
Mhm. Any thoughts, Oliver?
I don't like the border of the Mystic Assassin. I know what they're going for with the Jade look, but yeah, I just don't like it. It doesn't mesh with the art that well.
I agree. Now that you've pointed it out, like the other ones, like Mystic Illusionist and Mystic Ninja, look great. Um, and then yeah, Mystic Assassin is kind of boring.
Yeah.
I think it works good in like Venomous Bite. Venomous Bite looks good.
Yeah.
Hiss also looks good, but I do agree like Tide Chakra doesn't look that great. And Gorgon's Gaze has this like off green with the green, so it's like it's kind of weird.
I think with the snake effects, it works well, right? Because it's very synergistic with its color palette.
Yeah,
Yep.
I do
Yeah.
love that. By the way, I do love that our discussion so far is myself, who doesn't play so often, and Yichin as well, just talking the strategy of the game and all this stuff. And Oliver, who is the more competitive player and plays and plays as well, is like, I don't like the borders.
I want to play with pretty cardboard, and some of this just doesn't vibe with me.
Well, you don't have to play assassin, Oliver. It's not illusionist.
I know, but I do like playing assassin.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
But
Kenny, what do you think about the theming of the cards?
Uh,
Assassin cards.
I mean, it's kind of weird in a sense. Like, I mean, I don't mind. As I said, the death by 1,000 paper cuts thing, that's fine, right? Like, I'm all for that as far as the way an assassin goes. But I guess a lot of the cards seem very like seduction based and such.
Yeah,
Um,
the idea is that Nu is supposed to be a succubus archetype.
okay, yeah. So I guess the weird thing about that is when you're playing Flesh and Blood, what are you doing, right? You're like in a duel or something, yeah. So,
Yeah.
in pretty much every other case, you can imagine like a guardian and a ranger going at it, and the guardian trying to smack the ranger with a hammer, and the ranger dancing around and shooting arrows and stuff. But like, what is Nu doing? Like you're on one turn you're a ranger shooting Nu with a bunch of arrows, and then on the next turn Nu's just trying to like cozy up with you or something. Like I don't know. It just seemed
She's rolling a charisma check.
Yeah, it just I don't know. It feels a bit like thematically incongruent with the rest of the classes, I suppose. I'm not saying that it's not going to work, right? And I'm not saying that the theme itself in isolation is not interesting. Look, seductresses and temptations and stuff I think is great. Like I love that kind of stuff in games. Um Temptations are awesome, right? When I made Scrap, I have a temptation faction there. It's not a seductress, but it's a similar thing. Um I guess I guess as well. I don't know if though the cards are kind of themed around seduction, none of them really feel like seduction, except Siren's Call is probably the closest one, right? Because
Yeah.
it feels like you're forcing the opponent to do something they may not want to, or that kind of thing. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of what I would expect more from seduction stuff, rather than just like you banish the top cards of their deck. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And like the whole using your cards against you kind of follows from that, but I do think that the lure effects are definitely the main thematic draw that you're trying to hit here. Intimate Inducement's similar to Siren's Call because it like takes cards from the top of your deck.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of like something with that. But definitely the the regular assassin cards are basically just like, oh, I'm in a massage house. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's get some acupuncture. Oh, they messed up. I'm dying.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about Enigma. This is Oliver's favorite hero.
Take it away, Oliver.
Is it? I guess so. I don't know. The art's cool. So some of the art is not as cool, like Meridian Pathway, but I do like how they have.
Whoa. Okay, whatever.
What?
I won't drive home the point.
Yeah, the art works well. The colors work well. Lots of blue stuff. Also, blue matters cards, which I actually do like because blue is my favorite pitch color in this game. Surprisingly, unsurprisingly, surprisingly, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. It's all good stuff. Everything like really synergizes with each other. So, I do like how they weaponized ward. Like we were having a lot of cards that had ward before from like Destodon or not Destodon, Dynasty was it? Was like the Blessing of Spirits and then the Tranquil Passing, and now, or I guess Phantasmal Tide Maul from Bright Lights. But yeah, finally making it into a mechanic that illusionists can use offensively, and like making it so it's not oppressive to play against, because that was a thing that people were struggling with before. Like illusionists were just too oppressive for some matchups, like Draw Mind Prism into certain matchups. Making it ward so you only target the hero makes it so the illusionist player has to play well, not the opponent. So that's a nice switch and change of pace for the class.
I do like how ward works overall with illusionist. It feels like a really natural fit. And just the kind of wispy everything works. I think it just really evokes that feeling of Ward well. So I do like the design overall of the illusionist stuff. Illusionist, like theme wise, is one of my favorite classes. I think execution wise, it's been one of the more frustrating ones. Um, I remember playing a lot against Prism a fair bit when I was playing before, and in fairness, I was playing Azalea before she was good. Um, back, I was one of those cool kids, but yeah, that was like an incredibly frustrating matchup. It felt like even if I did play it right, I'd just lose. Um,
It is definitely not a great matchup for Azalea.
yeah, yeah. But Enigma, as Oliver said, you just go to face, and then it's up to the illusionist to have to play well. And there's things that you can do to obviously, there's damage thresholds you might want to break, right? Like if they have two ward things in play and you can exceed both, then you break both, which is nice.
Yep.
Or if you break the lower one, then they have to bust the higher one. So that's kind of cool. There's things to think about there.
Yep.
But I guess the only thing I don't like about it, and this is less about Ward and more about just the rules of the game again, the kind of non-thematic stuff, or not non-thematic, non-intuitive stuff we've talked about before. I don't like that one unpreventable damage destroys Enigma's entire board.
Mhm.
That rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, I will say in the game state that we are in now, it's definitely necessary as a balancing mechanic, but it's definitely not very intuitive to understand at first glance. And it definitely feels bad on the illusionist side when you get hit for one unpreventable and you're like, oh, everything just dies.
My entire board shatters, right? And generally, I've been against kind of permanence in Fab for a while, right? So I like illusionist design in spite of that, because I think it's kind of thematic and cool and interesting. But you know, even as against permanence as I am, I'm also against the ability to just completely undo an entire an entire hero's game plan with one random ability. Like I wonder, there's that Tiger Claw Shuko, whatever it's called, the ninja equipment. Like I just wonder how much of a nightmare that is for Enigma to deal with, like a repetitive unpreventable damage every turn.
Yeah, Oliver, how is that?
It's really annoying when it comes in for 6 or like 5, because you can buff up the caution tiger a lot, so it can come up for like 6, 7 damage, and it was really annoying.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. It feels, even though it probably is balanced and that's good design. If it is, like if it all works out and shakes out well in the wash, then great. But just it's a non-intuitive mechanism that it seems like a massive feels bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one other mechanic of illusionist this time around, or there's two other mechanics. One of which is benefits, where if you control no other illusionist auras, you get a benefit, and +1 counters, where you can stack +1 counters on things, and they'll attack for more. I feel like both of these mechanics are not particularly intuitive. One example is, for example, Waxing Spectre, where it has Ward 3, but it hits for 4. And it's hard to represent that on a dice, where you either have a dice that's indicating 1, indicate the 1+1 counter, and you have to just do the math in your head, or you put it at 4, and now you have to remember that it's only Ward 3.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, that's my only gripe with Illusionist right now. Also because a lot of the cards seem pretty pushed, but they're also really fun. They seem really fun, so it's okay.
Push but fun is like the correct direction, right? Pushed for push's sake is not great.
Yeah, yeah. Like there is 10,000 Year Reunion, which is just reads really really fun. And this land.
10,000 Year Reunion is that I realize, as I play more and more, apparently I'm a Timmy.
Mm-hmm.
Those that don't know, Timmy is like a design archetype from MTG where you like big, explosive, flashy effects that are kind of fun. So like you like playing a big dinosaur or a big dragon, 10,000 Reunion is that Timmy in me, right? Similar to the first card I talked about, the 20 damage thing. Just the thought of playing it and being able to like swing for 10, man, that feels good.
Yeah. Actually, I will say that the 3 Illusionist Majestics, 10,000 Reunion, Rage Spectre, and Restless Coalescence are perfect examples of Timmy, Spike, and Johnny in 3 different cards. Right? Like Restless Coalescence is like the perfect Johnny card where it's like, oh, this is kind of good. And you kind of try to like maximize its effectiveness where it's like, oh, this has a lot of potential. And Rage Spectre is like, there are certain use cases for it, and it's really good in those use cases. And it's just good, efficient beater, and that's it.
Yeah.
Nothing flashy about it.
And then you have the 10. Then you have Ward 10.
Yeah, which is, I think it's just in the cusp of playable, but it is definitely like Christmas Landy. Cool. Anything else you want to mention about the Illusionist cards? There's a lot of unique designs here, but I'm not sure if they're worth going into because they are. It's hard to talk a lot about them, even though they're unique designs. I don't know why. At least from my perspective.
I will say I like the spectral shields, like just the new art for them. That's nice. But I also will say that I like the illusion cards that have upside if you have no other illusionist auras in play. That I think is like really great design, right? Because number one, if illusionist is behind, you get an upside to be able to establish your board, which is great. And then on top of that, if illusionist is ahead and you've got a decent board, then you're not getting as much upside, right? So it's kind of like it's almost like a catch-up mechanism that is self-balancing. I think it's clever design. I like it.
Yeah, I think most of the illusionist commons and rares all have those unique use cases where it's like this is kind of cool, and it can definitely be very obviously powerful in the right situation. But it seems hard to maximize when looking at the class as a whole, which I think is a deck building mechanic that people are really drawn to.
I think one of the weird things about the new illusionist cards is that they all scale differently. Some of them have different ward values. Some of them have different +1 counters. And some of them just like which one was it like? The essence of ancestry, body, soul, and mind. I guess I like that whole cycle, but yeah, they all scale very differently, and it could be weird to try and evaluate a single one just like in a vacuum because like the other colors are also different sometimes.
Yeah, this is where kind of like the 2 different desires of design for Flesh of Blood kind of conflict, where you have the assassin cards that are very easy to remember the basic notes of, and they're very easy to compartmentalize in your head. But as a result, they're like really just samey. They're not very interesting at all. And you have all the illusionist cards that do something different, even though they're somewhat thematically similar. But they're very difficult to memorize because they all have different conditions. Yeah, that's about it. That's kind of all I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Just weird.
Oh, yeah, you were also complaining like Restless Coalescence was like the only illusionist instant aura.
Oh yeah,
that they
so
printed.
that's another thing where this is something that I have a problem with. I have with Ninja a lot, but not a little bit with Illusionist, where the delineation between Mystic Illusionist and regular Illusionist is seemingly obvious, but there's always these like random like one-off cases that just like defeat the whole paradigm. So what I mean is all the Illusionist auras are actions. So it's very easy to think, okay, purple border, action card. All the Mystic Illusionist cards are instants, except there's a purple Illusionist card, which is Restless Coalescence, that is an instant. So I'm not sure where the design distinction between that makes a card illusionist versus a mystic illusionist comes from, right? Because what makes Restless Coalescence an illusionist card other than the fact that the designers just wanted other illusionists to have access to this card?
Yeah, there's also like Phantasmal Tide from a previous set that is also illusionist instant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And there's other like design notes that the Mystic Illusionist cards do have, which is like if you transcend it or if you put a blue card, blah 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 blah, which is totally fine. But it feels weird to have this design distinction and then break it on like 1 or 2 cards.
This is their color break, talent break.
They call it talent pie break.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else you guys want to mention about illusionists?
Not particularly.
I did
This
find
is
it
your-
interesting that there's an additional young version of Enigma.
Oh yeah, that. I guess you can talk about that. So this is a special card that appears in the gold pack in the booster box. And it's basically just an additional card they printed that is Blitz only hero that is just new version of Enigma. It's basically an expansion slot card, but in a different pack, not within the pack. I don't know if there's a specific reason why they did this. I think it's just for like additional hype when you open the box and you see a gold pack. But that's it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not
Okay,
too
cool.
enthusiastic about it, just because of like Blitz only.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I wish it was like there was an adult hero version is kind of what I meant. I just meant the hero itself it seems like an interesting ability.
Yeah, I think it's a very cool ability. It also makes the ward equipment much more playable because you can unward them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but otherwise it's just okay.
Hmm.
Okay, let's move on to Zen. Zen Tamer of Purpose. So this guy's the Crouching Tiger guy. He has a bunch of Crouching Tiger cards in Dynasty. And Ira got some Crouching Tiger mechanics in one of the box sets. But now we have a dedicated Crouching Tiger character. And everything he does is just making these 0 attack, 0 cost Crouching Tiger cards to combo and to play off of and to buff in various ways. We have the Mystic Ninja attacks. All of them are basically just like make Crouching Tigers or play off of Crouching Tigers. The main difference between Mystic Ninja and regular Ninja is that Mystic Ninja cards will create Crouching Tigers in hand, while most Ninja cards will create Crouching Tigers in the Banish Zone that you can play that turn only. Yeah, any thoughts?
Zen's the best looking hero in the set. Look at
Those
those
are kind of
arms.
weird.
He gets such a glow up from young to adult as well. Like
I do agree with that.
Yeah, just such a glow up. I was saying to Oliver, I was like, young Zen is like the Virgin Zen, and then the other one is Chad Zen.
Well, he's got the not quite character for King on his chest, which is slightly off and not exactly the character for King.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, like my knowledge of Chinese characters is not super strong, but it almost looks like the Emperor one, right? Like
almost it's just like one stroke off, and it's like it looks like a bootleg character.
Is it the character for Daddy instead?
No, it's not a character at all. It just doesn't exist.
Yeah, wait. Didn't we talk about this before where they made like a very Asian looking language, but it was all fake? I forgot what.
Yeah, they did that for like the Imperial Ledger stuff.
Yeah. So are the chakras actually any?
No, chakras are the correct kanji for it.
Huh.
It's all Japanese kanji.
Interesting.
Or I guess traditional Chinese.
Yeah, it's interesting that they decided to go with like a mishmash, right? Like where it's like some of it is not accurate, and then some of it's like, oh, there's actually just Japanese characters in this world.
Yeah, and this is something actually I criticize LSS for, where they just randomly mix Chinese and Japanese, and also real stuff and not real Asian stuff. Where you have the emissaries of Moon, Tide, and Wind, where the names on the flavor text are very clearly Chinese names, and then you have their titles, which are like Kotori X, which is very clearly Japanese.
and then they have Chi, QI, and then they have Chi, CHI.
Yeah. And it's like, come on, just pick one. Or at least like not make them not in the same in the same set that's supposed to be set in the same region.
Yeah, that is a shame.
Mhm.
That be, I will say that I suppose on a whole, it is nice to get quite a lot of representation, but it would be
Yeah.
nice if it was a little more accurate.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't really mind that it's not accurate because I can like it does feel like a good I won't say celebration of culture, but it does feel like it's a good like they're all depicted in a way all the characters are depicted in ways that aren't very like embarrassing or like at the butt of a joke.
Yeah, yeah,
So I don't mind at all.
that's right. It doesn't feel like I guess for clarity, I'm sure that listeners all know, but like Oliver, Yichin, and I are all of Asian descent of various kinds.
Mhm.
Um, and so I was going to say it doesn't feel like yeah, I'm not like ashamed to look at these cards or anything like that.
Yeah.
There was part of me that wanted to do the shame on my ancestors kind of thing, but no, nothing like that in any of these cards or anything like that. It all looks fairly respectful. Um,
Yeah. Honestly,
and
most of it looks cool. So I'm okay with it as long as it looks
yeah,
cool.
yeah, definitely. Like all of it very much looks like it's good art overall in the set. Like I don't think there's many pieces of art in the set as to compared to Star Wars, right? Star Wars, which I've been enjoying a lot recently, but Star Wars certainly has some questionable art pieces, but the art in this
Back
set
to Han Solo,
is
man. I can't look at Han Solo.
I have to look at him every game because I play him. But yeah, it's just um like I don't want to pay hundreds of dollars for the showcase, but it is tempting.
Mhm.
Um
Just get non-hideous art.
That's right. But anyway, so back onto Daddy Zen. Um, yeah, I think I mean, Crouching Tiger, I think is a cool card, right? It's fun to make something that sucks into something that doesn't, right?
Mhm.
I do wish that the entire suite was not just Crouching Tiger over and over and over and over and over again. Um, Mainly because like I've touched on this before with talents, right? Where like when you have these sets of cards. Like, for example, the Crouching Tiger set, the Crouching Tiger suite for Mystic Ninja. Does that mean that the next Mystic Ninja must be Crouching Tiger? Um, and if the next Mystic Ninja is not Crouching Tiger, then are the cards even compatible? Right?
Mhm.
And at that point, why are they even both Mystic Ninjas? Why not just make them regular ninjas? Right?
Yeah.
Um, and Zen can be the Crouching Tiger ninja. That's fine, right? But everyone else can access Crouching Tiger stuff too if they want to. Like, I don't understand. That's just yeah.
It definitely feels really weird. One thing I will criticize the Mystic Ninja suite specifically is that there is a very big theme of having Crouching Tigers in hand, but there's exactly one card that actually cares about Crouching Tigers in hand, which is Tooth and Claw, a Majestic. And
Hmm.
even then, that card is not very good. It's cool, but it's like an exciting payoff. In fact,
Yeah.
it's like half of an E-Strike reference because it's
Yeah,
just go in plus
it's
power.
almost E-Strike. It doesn't even get +2.
Yeah,
Sorry, that's why it's half an E-Strike reference.
exactly. It's, yeah. So overall, I think that it could have leaned in different directions, but it feels like that it didn't have enough space to really breathe because so much of the kit needs to be dedicated to the main thing he does, which is making sure you have Crouching Tigers in the first place.
it there's a hint of stuff, right? Like when you look at 12 petal Kasaya
Mhm.
or Kasaya, I'm not sure how to say it. I think it's Kasaya. Um,
Mhm.
but it creates Zen state tokens. The dude is called Zen. It would have been interesting. I mean, even just generally, Zen feels very mystic-ish as well with the way that they've tried to do it all. It would have been interesting to see Zen state pop up more, right?
Yeah.
Or Zen state matters cards. I know
Yeah.
like they're constrained in how much they can do, but like there's a lot of Crouching Tiger matters cards. A lot.
Mhm.
And I guess it goes it part of I think what makes cards like Crouching Tiger exciting is when you kind of slowly get to the point where you play them. And again, this feeds into the gamer stuff, right? Like the gamers like it when they feel like they've broken the game in some way.
Mhm.
So I think with a card that's like obvious, like that is not inherently good, right? Zero attacks are not inherently good.
Mhm.
It feels clever to finally piece everything together to make it good, but this is not that, right? This is just okay. We're going to make Crouching Tiger good.
Yeah.
That's the whole design of Mystic Ninja. So again, I like Crouching Tiger. I'm sure it will probably be fun to play with all of these again, like Death by a Thousand Paper Cut style things, but it just feels like very gratuitous.
Yeah. If like more cards referenced, your attacks with base power 1 get +1, or base power 1 or less get +1. It feel a little bit more clever, where it's not exactly saying that you should be using this with Crouching Tiger, but you have the moment where you're like, oh, Crouching Tiger has base
Yes.
power 1 or less. Let's
Yeah.
combine.
Yeah, 100%. I'm all for that, right? That's why historically, when I used to play Magic, I didn't like Tribal as much because
Mhm.
Tribal is so obvious in how you should put the cards together, right?
Mhm.
Like, I as a little aside, and this is not a plug for Star Wars Unlimited, but I think Star Wars Unlimited has actually done it really well in the way that they've designed cards in a tribal sense. Like, for example, Chewbacca and Han Solo as leaders both have synergies with the Millennium Falcon unit in the core set. But it's not explicitly laid out in that way. They don't say, if you have the Millennium Falcon in play, it gets bonus attack, whatever. No, both of their abilities just happen to work well with the Millennium Falcon, but with other cards too. So I think that's like the really interesting way to do tribal in a sense, right? Is don't paint it, don't make it absolutely obvious for everyone.
Mhm. Yeah, obviously there's some like development risks alongside that, where like, oh, this accidentally breaks this card, this accidentally breaks this card. But I feel like from a design standpoint, and there's the other devil's advocate I will play actually is that tribal effects are necessary in certain amounts to ensure that people who are not like those Johnny types that just like to piece things together have a clear direction of how to build a character.
Yeah. I concede that there's utility in it, right? I think, flagging it for people who are, as you said, not Johnnies, who are kind of more casual players or just, play for fun or that kind of thing and don't want to have to deck build to the nth degree to get value. I don't mind, designs for them. I just wish it wasn't every card.
Yeah, I agree.
There's
Stand out though in terms of like designs. Shifting Winds of the Mystic Beast, which not only sounds like a Yu-Gi-Oh card, also has the coolest effect in the game. And I think it's the main reason a lot of people are actually wanting to play Zen, where you can make Crouching Tigers the names of other combo cards so that your combo payoffs that just happen to be blue in 3 blocks, you can turn them on, which I think is very cool.
Yeah, I still think Zen is like one of the weakest designs in the set, mostly because if you look at Enigma and New, their power cards are their blue cards. For Zen, his power cards are not his blue cards because he still has to run red cards to be on rate. While like
Yeah.
New and Zen, or not, sorry, not New and Zen, New and Enigma, their power cards are actually their blue cards. So I feel like that's kind of like a flavor fail. Like the Mystic Ninja has to play so many red cards and not enough power blue cards exist for him right now.
You're talking like, just as an example, even like Tiger Form Incantation, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
the blue version is far worse than the red.
Yeah.
Um,
And then like
Yeah.
if you get into the regular ninja stuff, like Maul is a great card, but it's yellow. Tiger Swipe, which is printed in a different set, is red. It's like there's just so
Chase the
many.
Tail is red.
Yeah, Chase the Tail is red. There's just so many power cards that are red that he can't transcend as easily as the other ones. And then yeah, it just makes him like a regular ninja, but with more hoops to jump through to actually get to where he wants to be.
Yeah. I do think that of the 3 heroes, Zen probably had, I don't want to say the least development time, but it definitely feels like that his definitely has the least thought put into it. Maybe it's not. Maybe that's a little too unfair because I feel like the other heroes have a lot of thought put into them in terms of like design development time.
Well, look,
but
Zen spent a lot of times on his arms and not on his brain. So
Yeah,
Clearly.
exactly. Yeah, I will say though that I'm usually not very impressed by ninja art. There's a couple good pieces, but I feel like a lot of the Mystic Ninja art or a lot of the equipment this time around is pretty sweet. 12 Messiah is really sweet art.
yeah, it's great.
Shifting Winds also has pretty good art.
Yeah, Shifting Winds is pretty cool. It's also the best card.
It says
just
Is it though? Is it though?
Yeah. What you do is you play Shifting Winds, you get 2 tigers, right? And then your first contra tiger you play, you name left arm of the forbidden one. And then watch your
Okay. All right.
name all 5 pieces of Exodia. Cool. I guess if that's it, let's go on to talk about the generics pretty quickly. They're not super interesting. There's a couple of cool effects on them, but for the most part, they're your typical generic fare.
I think Prismatic Leyline is one of my favorite designs.
I think so. Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, I like the complete inversion as well, where it's not just it's red attacks, which are usually strong, get the smallest buff, whereas blue attacks, which are usually weak, get the biggest buff. So that's kind of cool. It almost it flattens the curve for all of them. So if you play 3 of the same attack in red, blue, and yellow, they'll all do the same thing generally.
Yeah, they all you go 0-0-0 like head jabs. They'll all just do 4 damage.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's interesting, right? Because that's the kind of card that I think is quite cool because it's not obvious what deck it goes in, but if it does find a deck, it's +6 for up to +6, right? Which is, I think, great. So really cool card.
Right, it's still pretty good.
Yeah. Even on blue yellow, right? Even +4, right?
Yeah.
I was even +3 is not bad, right? It's not excellent, but I feel like +3 is reasonable.
+3 for a yellow block 3, that's better than Nimblism, right?
Yeah, exactly. So even at its kind of lowest, it's still okay, right? So the fact that it has additional upside on top of that, golden. Blanche, I legitimately thought was AI art when I looked at it. Just something about it. I'm not no knock to Mark Poole, the artist, right? It's nice art. I think it's just something about the style of the face just immediately gave me big AI vibes.
So this was actually brought up before in another Discord server where they also said it looks like AI art. I do kind of agree. I think it's because it has that realistic-ish lighting look that a lot of AI art has.
Yeah.
I did take a look through Mark Poole's other work, who's a very prolific fantasy artist. He's done magic art. He did Ancestral Recall and stuff. So it's he's very clearly not an actual artist, right?
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to figures, especially his recent figures, they all have that kind of ephemeral lighting that even if it doesn't look like AI art, most likely a lot of his art ended up being used to train AI. That's my
maybe. But yeah, it just really sticks out as kind of I think it's particularly bizarre as well because I guess the character themselves, they look quite modern. I don't know how to describe it other than that. When you look at, I think a lot of the different, warriors and that kind of thing, like Dorinthia and stuff, they look like fantasy characters, right? They're clearly humans and such, but they look like they're from, older times or that kind of thing. Blanche looks like they just pulled some model off the street.
I will say that the disparity between how painterly the background looks versus how modern lighting the face looks definitely does contribute to that, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about the effect? It's kind of cool.
It's interesting. I like the name of the card based on the based on the effect as well. That's clever. Yeah, it's an interesting effect, right? It's the kind of thing where I like that it's not something that just says it doesn't say turn off the traits that care about color, right?
Mhm.
Even though it does say that. It doesn't just say counter target. Sorry, talent. I always say trait, but you know what I mean. Um, yeah, I think it's a nice card.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite design ever, but it's fine.
Yep. And then we also have the latest CNC downgrade, fact finding mission, where you don't even get to destroy the card now. You just look at it.
That's right. Have a cheeky peek.
Yeah, just a little peek. Only blocks 2, of course, because it's a little bit too powerful because you can peek at your opponent's equipment too. You have another downgrade of Sink Below, which is Evasive Leap.
It's like I don't understand. So I remember seeing Evasive Leap and just being really puzzled. I don't have anything else to add. Is it just it's just bad, right?
It's bad.
It's just like it's like the worst defense reaction of all time.
Yeah, obviously they print it because they want to make sure like the limited environment has this effect, but they don't want it too strong. But it feels like it's just like a lot of these like worst reprints do end up feeling like wasted space when you're opening stuff en masse.
Yeah. It's like they didn't even. It's not even like 2, 3, 4, right? It's just
Yeah,
1, 2, 3. Why?
it is the fab equivalent of the Magic's vanilla bears, right? Like they're there, they exist. We all
Hey, you
admit
leave those vanilla bears alone.
they don't print them anymore. They
What?
stopped printing them because Magic has gotten so bloated that they need to have more effects on more effects now.
Actually, sorry, my bad. It's because it's not getting Commander.
Yeah, that too. But also because they have less commons per set now.
Ah, man, rest in peace, Grizzly Bears.
Yeah, rip. Cool. Anything else you want to mention about the set? I guess you can talk about the expansion slot cards, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I talked about this. Oliver and I talked about this card already, but Shadow Realm Horror is one of my least favorite designs. It's just it's just good. Like, why is it just so good? And
Yeah.
it's not even. This is what we talked about before, right? It's not even good in like a fun way. It's just good, like really, really good.
Yeah.
So much upside. Like, even if I mean, 2 for 7 with Go Again, with very, very limited restriction on that, is already really good. But the fact that it also gives you like potentially a card, it's like E-Strike.
Yep.
It's half an E-Strike, but kind of better. Somehow better.
Well, it's not better because you have to pay 2 for it still.
Sure.
And you don't draw the card, you just play it from banished. But
Yeah, but you don't get all the things. But you don't get all the things of E-Strike, right? This you get all the things here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I don't mind like Levia getting some love, but it just feels very unsubtle, right? It's just a power card.
Yes.
That's all.
I agree. I think they should have made the floor slightly lower on this, so there is a risk to running it.
Make
like
it
maybe
5 attack.
Yeah, if it's 5 attack and it has like +2 on the first one,
Yeah.
then wow, it's now it's not a 6 that you can hit in your graveyard. Now there's a risk attached to it, right?
Yeah. Maybe that'd be
Yeah.
better design. I don't know. What do I know? But I think on other cards, I think Kindle's cool.
Yeah.
Just because again, it's a card that makes you look at it and go, huh. Like, how do I make it work, right?
Mhm.
So
apparently Kindle Wizards is very good.
apparently what's that? Kindle Wizard?
According to like most wizard mains, is very, very good.
I suspect it will be, right? But I mean, I guess just on an individual card design level, it is the type of card you look at and you go, how do I make it good? I suspected, given that Kano is already good, I suspected it would be. But it's just it's cool design, right? It's not just a power card. It's something that requires like a little bit more thought and application for it to be useful.
Yep, I agree. I think it's very underwhelming on the first read, and then some people test it and they're like, "Oh wow, this is kind of bonkers."
Yeah. Which dragon is Mirror Guy?
Mirror Guy's the anti-phantasm one.
The anti-phantasm dragon.
Your first dragon
first
attack
dragon attack
loses the
loses
Phantasm.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. No other thoughts on that.
It's fine. Draw my
I'm not
LL.
even legal anymore, so it's just
Yeah.
basically there. It's a mega cycle where every set in the last like 5 or so sets, they've had dust from that region that gives a specific dragon no phantasm.
Yeah.
So this is just them getting a little behind on the fact that Dromai is no longer legal and be like, complete this cycle.
Yeah.
I like the art. I think it's kind of cute.
Yeah. It is. It's nice art.
Yeah.
I will say I love the art on Log Draw Half Glove.
Because this is anime.
Yeah. I mean, well, I talked to Laura about this though. I feel like the Andy dropping Woody meme, that I don't want to play with you anymore thing. Azalea's good now. I can't play her anymore. I'm not. It's not how I roll. But I do think just generally it's quite cool looking art. The effect I'm like a bit more met on. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm sure it's probably quite good. But if anything, just for some level of consistency, right? Like you draw multiple arrows that don't go together, or you just need a +4. You just go for it. Maybe it sucks. I don't know. But it's not an effect like Kindle that sparks joy in me, right? It's just like, okay, convert cards into 4 damage. Cool.
Yeah. It's basically more insurance rather than more possibility.
Yeah, exactly. That I think that's a good way of putting it. Unlike Supercell, that's an exciting card.
Yeah. It's slightly less exciting because you need to have target hyperdrivers in play already.
Yeah.
It is very exciting.
That's what I mean. It's so much. You need 3. So in order for it to be 3, you need 3 hyperdrivers in play, right?
Yep.
Yeah. But that's what makes it so exciting. So much value.
I will say that the last line of text is my least favorite line of text because it's basically just, okay, Max fans, we hear you. Banishing your win con sucks. We'll let you shuffle it back in. Everything, if the card was like, just remove that line of text, I would like it from a design perspective more, even though it would be much less playable, right?
Yeah, I get you. I don't disagree.
Yeah. If it was like, if X is 3 or greater, play a Construct Nitro Mechanite from Banishment or something like crazy like that, I'd be like, oh, this is sweet. But it's more just like, oh, you messed up because that's the main mechanic of the hero. So we'll give you a one-time, get out of jail free card.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of these band-aid fixes because like the next 4 cards is all AB on Evo cards, and that's what Teklovasa needed. It's just like
I don't think Teklovasa needed AB.
I mean, I don't think so either because they obviously have the Mechanologist cards that have AB on it, but people have been wanting it for so long that they finally complied, and then this is what we get.
Yeah, I think both, like, all the mech cards are basically just like, we hear your complaints, we'll give you what you want, and the Evos themselves, I think, actually are very playable. I want to play a turbo boost Teklovasa now because I think that'd be very cool. But the fact that they just have AB randomly, it's like, okay, whatever, I guess. I'd rather have it like, oh, just destroy it to prevent 1 damage or something like super minor.
Yeah, I also don't like Eloquent Eulogy, mostly because there's no hoops to jump through. It's just 0 for 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Visit the Golden Anvil seems pretty fun, to be honest.
Yes, I think that is a very cool card. It is probably a card that reads more cool than it actually ends up in practice because all it does is give you like 20 more blocking power.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I imagine, I was like, man, you could like restock all your equipment, and then I'm like, oh, that just means you block more.
But I think it's a very thematic card. I think it's kind of fun. It just ends up that people will use it for armor instead of like having more one-off cool effects.
Yeah.
Like Reasoning and Refraction Bolters, pretty cool. Instead, you're just gonna use it to refill your helmet, which is block 2 and then block 1. So it's like, oh, okay, whatever. Lame. Nerd. Also, Visit Goldbane Estate, good card. I also think it's very pushed, but I think it's a fun card, and it has a nice thematic implication where you just go home and ask daddy for more money.
They dropped some lore on him, right? I didn't actually get to read it yet.
Yeah, they also lore on him. So the lore of Victor is that he's rich, but not only that, he's actually like talented, and he's just like he's one of those like big babies that just kind of like goes in somewhere and like is talented enough that you can't really get rid of him. But like nobody wants to deal with him because he's just so obnoxious and annoying. And so
I love that.
his whole lore is that his family got sick of him, so they banished him. And then he was like, "Oh, sweet, I get to go on an adventure," and he just starts conquering other lands and subjugating them. And they're like, "Oh well, oops." And so presumably this is just him going back, being like, "Hey, I have a lot of money now. Give me more money."
So I can go conquer more stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
That's fun.
Victor is definitely like one of the more established personalities in Fab right now, and I feel like he's a very good like comic relief villain, where he's like supposed to be like, oh, I'm a big bad guy, but he's also just like kind of like brat, like spoiled rich kid, big baby.
Yeah,
kind of just like he just like you enjoy watching his face get beat in.
He seems like a Saturday morning cartoon villain, right?
Yeah, just those villains that just have like obscene amounts of money and just like buy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Saturday morning cartoons, there's also Murky Water, which is just Riptide.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, just
like it's good, right?
Mhm.
I feel like it's a good card for him. I'm sure that he'll play 3 of it, and that's all. Like it's just. I like that. I mean, it plays into his theme, which is nice, but it's just a big attack that gives him something that he wants.
Yep. There's one caveat that makes this slightly more interesting in my eyes, which is that if you have less than 3 traps in your graveyard, you will pick one from whatever you have and do that and get that back. So you can technically reuse your traps, a specific trap, 3 times guaranteed, if that's the only trap you have in your graveyard when you play this card and it hits.
Really?
Yeah. Which I wouldn't have thought reading this initially, because it sounds like you have to have 3 traps, right?
Yeah, that again is exactly what I thought as well. I thought you would need to banish 3 traps, especially because of the if you do, right?
Yeah.
Like you may banish 3 traps. Okay, I have banished 1 trap. If you do, it just grammatically that doesn't work, right? Like if you said to me, "Hey Kenny, go to the shop and buy 3 apples. If you do, I will give you a hug." And I came back and I had 1 fucking apple.
I'm not giving you a
That's right. Apparently I am.
Yeah, you're getting the fucking trap back, and you're gonna play it. But it does make the deck building slightly more interesting, and it makes the gameplay slightly more interesting, where you might want to guarantee a certain trap. But it's pretty minor. I don't think you'll do that. It's just a random weird caveat that will come up occasionally, and you'll be like, "Oh, that's nice."
Yeah, I don't like it though. Bad grammar, making me mad.
Bad grammar, swamp guy, stinky man.
That's right. He's the ranger wannabe.
Yeah. To be fair, this is the first picture of him actually using a bow and arrow. Every other art of him doesn't have him with a bow and arrow. So
every other has like a stinky kind of fat guy, right?
Yeah, that's basically how he looks like. Yeah. That's your other ranger.
Yeah,
he is the worst choice now. So that's your only choice, Kenny. If you want to play again, you must play Riptide.
Good lord.
Though I do think he's actually pretty good. I do think he's pretty good. He's gonna be pretty good this upcoming meta. So maybe Azalea will be bad again.
Maybe one can dream.
Yeah. Okay, that's about it. Anything you want to talk about the set as a whole?
I mean, personally like the fact that they reference the base class mechanics. So Assassin has stealth, Ninja has combo again, because Fi didn't care about combo, and then Illusionist has ward, which is cool.
I agree. I agree with that. That it's not just like the talent is its own class, right?
Oh yeah. Don't ruin your day.
Sure, go ahead.
Mystic Ninja doesn't have combo.
I said it references combo.
It doesn't. Only Zen.
Yeah, no, I meant like the heroes reference base class mechanics.
Okay, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose in fairness as well, in a way, Shifting Winds of the Mystic Beast, the greatest Yu-Gi-Oh card of all time, also kind of references combo. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't, but that's obviously what it's geared towards.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think that it's cool that the classes definitely feel like takes on the base classes. I still hate talents. I still
Same.
don't. I still don't get why. Yeah, I understand that they're all mystic and everything, and they want to try and keep some mechanics with them. I get in a way that's why like they want it to be mystic. I still don't like it. I just hate that there's no there's not many cards in the set for like older characters, right? Like there's some.
There's a decent amount. I think for the Assassin's League, the Assassins all got a lot of stuff.
Okay, so assassin may be more the case, right? Yeah, I haven't caught up with it too much.
Yeah,
but
Prism, like illusionists and ninjas, got nothing.
Yeah. I guess that's more what I mean, right? It just feels like at least like there is a decent number of cards I can see, obviously. So it's not so much like the quantity of cards per se. I think I just more meant generally like I look at all of these like mystic, the mystic assassin cards, and I'm like, okay, they just say new specialization, right? And that's pretty much what they'll say for like ages now. Because I mean, what are we at now, right? We're at Fire Ninja, Mystic Ninja, right? So are we going to get another Fire Ninja next? Are we going to get some other different ninja? We're going to get a Lightning Ninja. We're going to see some Naruto.
Well, we got our first redos of old talents, right? In Dust to Dawn, with Vincent and New Prism, where
That's
you
true.
use different parts of the kit and you didn't really overlap, which is slightly annoying for a lot of people.
Yeah, I don't know. As I'm still just not the biggest fan of talents.
Yeah. I will say though that effectively, right, the mechanics that they're all referencing, at least for Ninja Illusionist, they have been mechanics that have been fringe mechanics at best and have received support, but not on the support level enough to make them playable in a competitive setting. Or really in like people have played Crouching Tiger Ninja before, right?
Sure.
So like it's kind of okay where you can like the fringe ninjas who did play Crouching Tiger now have some more Crouching Tiger cards to work with. But it definitely feels like that the line between talent and non-talent is getting a little thinner, which is, I guess, good for you, but I don't particularly like it.
I mean, I don't like it in that the problem is that the line is still very clearly there, right? It is still the case that if I wanted to play, let's say that I wanted to play Katsu as like Crouching Tiger Katsu, right? I can, but I'm also missing like 50% of the Crouching Tiger kit that's just arbitrarily gated behind the fact that it's mystic, right? Like, as you kind of said, when you look at like when I look at all the Mystic Ninja cards, just going through, Shifting Winds of the Mystic Beast, apart from the fact that it has Mystic in its name, nothing about the card has anything to do with Mystics, right? Apart from the fact that it's blue.
Well, the cheap part where it says
the cheap part. Sorry. Cut that out.
Okay,
got it.
Tooth and Claw, though. I can see argument for Tooth and Claw because that's another thing I have.
Yeah, Tooth and Claw is a good example. Look, the other ones I can see, they're pitch blue, fair. All right, there's some reference to Mystic, right? But even in fairness, though, it almost feels like that is for some of them, maybe not Shifting Winds of the Mystic Beast, but like Companion of the Claw, for example, it feels a bit tokenistic, right?
Yeah.
Like,
you already have a similar effect in Ninja already. Like Flex is 1 for 4, go again on hit, create a Crouching Tiger, and you banish zone.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just wondering, like, when I look at Companion to the Claw, if it didn't have that clause, that if you pitch a blue, if it just said create a Crouching Tiger in your hand, go again, 2 for 4, would it be absurd?
Not even close.
I think the line is very arbitrary. The line for Ninja, right, I mentioned before, is that Mystic Ninja cards create Crouching Tigers in hand.
Mhm.
And if they played it up more, where you had payoffs that cared about the tiger cards in your hand,
Mm.
I could see the use case for the delineation between mystic and non-mystic. But because there's only one card that does that, and they don't really make use of it outside of that, it feels very paper thin.
Mhm. Alrighty, shall we
Okay.
wrap it up?
I think so.
Overall
All right.
thoughts out of 10 for the set, Oliver? You're pretty positive on it.
I haven't drafted it yet, but I have played CC, so I would probably rate like 7.5. I can see how it could
Only
be.
some.
I mean the Zen part is kind of disappointing to me, but I do like Assassin and Enigma. Yep.
I feel like I'm actually. I feel like I was hotter on the set before I analyzed it a little more today. I feel like I've cooled on it a little bit. I think thematically it's great, and I think there's some kind of cool concepts that it wants to explore. But I'm actually like not super big on it. I think I probably give it like a 6 out of 10 for me personally, just on how I feel about the general designs and directions.
I'll give it an 8.5 maybe. I do have like the tiny pain points, but honestly, they're just like tiny pain points. I think that overall, the design of all of the heroes feels pretty interesting enough. I will say that knowing or given that my assumption is that they are going into the set wanting to create a complex and interesting set, they definitely hit the complex part.
Mm.
To the detriment of like new players, but that's like a secondary concern. I think the design philosophies behind some of the mechanics are pretty good. Some of them not so good, but I think overall it's pretty positive. There are some play pattern things that I'm a little concerned by that I'll just wait to withhold judgment on. But it definitely, I think the set is a great example of both the strengths and weaknesses of Fab as a game. So 8.
Yeah. My rating is a little bit reserved because I still haven't played like the limited part of it. The reason why I rated heavy hitters so highly is because I like the limited environment and like they just played well. So we'll see.
Well, I don't even remember I rated heavy hitters, so
Yeah.
I feel like I was more positive on heavy hitters overall than this set. I thought heavy hitters was great. I think I said apart from Kano. So not Kano, Kaio.
yeah.
Kaio I was not super keen on. And
Mhm.
lo and behold, he's very good.
Yeah.
I hate good cards.
Yeah, that's how it works. I mean, there's plenty of bad cards in this set. I don't know why you're so down on it.
That's true. I should really love this. I revised it. It's a 10 out of 10 set.
Yeah.
Lots of bad cards.
Yeah.
But it's not even. But a lot of the bad cards aren't even fun bad cards. That's the problem. They're just so bad cards.
Okay, but Cosmic Awakening though, it's like bumps it. I think Cosmic Awakening alone, I think bumps up the set another half point for me by itself.
That's why it's not a 5.5 for me.
Yeah. It's a very good card.
Yeah.
So I think I'll say 8.5. I do think the set is overall very well designed. There's a couple small pain points, but compared to other sets, it's not really that big of a deal. And yeah, that's about it.